Hey, greetings. This is Kenny Rager, and I wanted to take just a few moments to walk you through a presentation that I made called Word of Mouth Movements. Recently learned about this idea of word of mouth movements and thought it would be a blessing to others to learn about word of mouth movements and how they can apply that to their organization or their ministry. So let's jump into it and let's talk a little bit about word of mouth movements. I learned about this idea of word of mouth movements from a book called Brains on Fire: Igniting Powerful, Sustainable Word of Mouth Movements. And I just want to be very upfront, very transparent that all of the material in this presentation is adapted from this book, Brains on Fire. Brains on Fire is actually the name of a marketing company that utilizes word of mouth movements to help their clients um, to promote themselves and to get the word out there about their product, cause, or events. The word of mouth movements that Brains on Fire advocates in their book, also titled Brains on Fire, was so impactful to me that I wanted to share that with you. Obviously, if you pick up a copy of the book, understand that it is a secular leadership book, so just keep that in mind as you read it. It is not a Christian book, so to speak. It is a secular leadership book. But there are great things that you can always learn um, from reading secular leadership books, and you can apply them to your specific context if the truth is applicable. Okay, so just kind of a word, just go on record there to let you know that this material about word of mouth movements is adapted from the book Brains on Fire um, from the marketing group Brains on Fire. So give credit where credit is due, and let's jump into it and talk about movements. We're going to begin by speaking about marketing campaigns versus word of mouth movements because the word of mouth movement is very different than a marketing campaign. So let's first talk about advertising campaigns. What are advertising campaigns? Well, advertising campaigns are designed to be finite. They have a beginning and an ending. Think about this. If you're promoting an event, cause, or product, normally you pay somebody to market that. There's going to be a set amount of time when ads are going to run from month A down to month Z, and there's going to be a series of advertisements, promotional material that's going to be ran during a finite set of time. And basically, when the money runs out, the campaign ends. There is a beginning and an end. Advertising campaigns often utilize TV ads, commercials, social media, and even print. That's what campaigns do. They send out postcards, they send out mailers, they have online campaigns, they have commercials. And as you know, this can be very costly. That adds up very quickly when you begin to print things and advertise things and make commercials. Advertising campaigns can be very costly. But one thing, kind of a downside of advertising campaigns, is that they lack relationships. They lack a personal touch. It's just an ad that's been shot out there, um, and you don't know who's really sending it. There's not really a lot of credibility. It's just an ad. As we'll talk about later, ads and campaigns do have their place, but it's more of an awareness to bring awareness to a subject. But we'll talk a little bit about that later. But there's not a personal touch in advertising campaigns. And believe it or not, they often advertising campaigns often yields low returns. Believe it or not, they yield low returns. And when you look at the cost of maybe a TV commercial, what it takes to make a TV commercial, the book says that maybe there's a 1 to 4% return on TV commercials that could cost millions of dollars to make. I mean, that's just insane. Um, to think about that. So advertising campaigns are designed to be finite. They utilize various forms of media, could be costly, lack relationships, and could yield low returns. But as we'll talk about, they do have their place, but it's more of an awareness is the purpose of an advertising campaign. So what is a word of mouth movement? Well, word of mouth movements are a little bit different than the traditional marketing advertising campaign. In a word of mouth movement, people, individuals are empowered to go out there and to share and talk about the product, cause, or event. And word of mouth movements are very relational. There is a huge relational factor involved in word of mouth movements. A word of mouth movement embraces the fans of the product, cause, or event. They basically look for those that are already excited about the product, cause, or event, and they tap into those people, into what the book calls the fans. And really, a word of mouth movement is all about shared passion. It's what the company is passionate about. It's finding what the fans are passionate about, coming together in great synergy to go out and to spread information about the product. It's about shared passion. Passion is a big part of a word of mouth movement. Word of mouth movements relies on what others are saying. It's not necessarily completely hinged upon the advertising campaign, but it is very much connected to people going out and being an ambassador or a catalyst or a fan, so to speak, and sharing about the product to their friends and their networks and their circles. If we were to define a word of mouth movement, the book defines a word of mouth movement like this. A sustainable movement happens when customers and employees share their passion for a business or cause that becomes a self-perpetuating force for excitement, ideas, communications, and growth. Um, their definition is basically that the customers and the employees both get so passionate and excited about this cause, this product, um, this event, that they are creating the force and the energy. They are making it happen, but they're also contributing ideas and helping the product grow, helping the product get out there because they are passionate about it. Again, that is a word of mouth movement defined in the book by Brains on Fire. So let's talk about how these word of mouth movements work, and let's talk about how to get them started. A word of mouth movement always begins with conversations. Movements begin with conversations. And a word of mouth movement is no different. It needs conversations to fuel the fire that it will become. Let's talk about this. Movements start with one-on-one conversations. Basically, again, we're trying to find the fans, we're finding people that are passionate about the product, cause, or event, and we're going to talk to them. Now, we can do that in different ways. We can do that in small groups, getting a group together, which I think is maybe the best way to do it. And we can also do it face to face, individually. But the reality is that when you gather them in small groups, you will have face to face time. But understand that this is not just an email conversation. It's not just a snail mail conversation. This is an actual face to face conversation with the fans that will be part of the word of mouth movement. There has to be this personal, relational touch. And those conversations go two ways: speaking and listening. That means that the company will do some speaking about the product, event, or cause, but they will also do some listening. And it also means that the fan will do some listening, but here's the kicker: the fan will also do some speaking. They are going to pour into the product, event, the cause. They're going to speak into that because why? They are already a fan of it. Conversations discover passions, and these are face to face, small group gatherings that are going to link people up and find the shared passion and why they need to go out and spread the word about the product or the event, the cause, whatever. Now, think about this. In the secular world, people are getting excited about toothpaste, and they're getting excited about, as we'll talk about, scissors and all kinds of things that really don't have an eternal significance. But we as Christians, we have something to be really passionate about. That is the resurrected Savior who is one day coming back. And we have so much to be passionate about. So for us as believers, if we are looking at word of mouth movements, we have already a a shared passion. Now, if we could just get those that are passionate about Jesus to see some of the other great things like the cooperative program or a KBC event or something that we're attempting to do, and to attach kingdom value to that, passions could easily be discovered in these face-to-face conversations. But it's important to remember that movements begin with conversations. Now, here's a big thing. When we start talking about the movements, we may be tempted to say, hey, let's get only the big name people in the room. Let's get only the recognizable names in the room. Let's get the movers and the shakers in the room, and they'll be part of our word of mouth movements. And some of those people may be in the room when you talk to the fans. But the book is actually very, very clear that you shouldn't always bank on the big names. Don't bank on influencers for the promotion. So, for example, there are quote unquote influencers on TikTok and Instagram that literally have thousands of followers, and companies will actually pay them to blog about or talk about a new pair of shoes or a new type of hat or something like that. And they think that if they can just get this influencer, this big name, to promote this, then everybody will listen. And maybe there is some value to that, but Brains on Fire kind of encourages you to go a different route. They don't really care about the big names. They don't really care about the celebrities, but they care about passionate people. And sometimes these people aren't even known at all. They're not very popular people, maybe in a grand scheme, but they are passionate, and they do have a circle of friends. And because they're passionate about the product, event, or cause, they will tell their circle of friends. They may not have thousands of followers on Instagram, but they have a group of people that surround them. They're passionate about it, and then therefore they will spread the word. And that's how word of mouth movements begin. You're not necessarily getting these big promoters to go out there and talk for you. You're finding passionate people. And these passionate people will be ambassadors. They will go out as an ambassador for the product, event, or cause that they are passionate about, and they will spread the word. Passionate people will be loyal. They'll be loyal to the product, event, or cause, and they will contribute. They will help you to fine tune the product. They will help you to make sure that it's better. Why? Because they love it. They are passionate about it, and they will contribute to it. So understand that we need passionate people, face-to-face conversations with passionate people to become your fans or your ambassadors that will go out and begin word-of-mouth movements. Okay, so how do we find these fans? How do we find these ambassadors, these catalysts that are going to go out and light the fire of word-of-mouth movements? Well, it all begins with creating a barrier of entry for your fans. A barrier of entry. Kenny, what does that mean, a barrier of entry? When I first read this in the book, I thought, man, this is so cool. We're going to find people that are passionate and excited and get them on board. And then the book throws in this chapter about how you need to create a barrier to keep some people out. And I thought, why? What's all that about? Like, I thought we want everybody that we can to be out spreading the word. Well, let me explain to you the barrier of entry for your fans and ambassadors for word of mouth movements. There needs to be a formal way to join the movement. There needs to be a formal way that you can identify who your fan, your ambassador, or your catalyst is. Now, please understand that when we are talking about fans and ambassadors or catalysts, we're talking about somebody that loves the product, loves the event, loves the cause, taking them to the next step of formally making them part of the movement. So when I say a fan, ambassador, or a catalyst, I'm referring to somebody that has made this formal step into being in the movement. These are people who cross a barrier to join the movement. They went through some type of barrier to formally identify themselves with the movement. And when they do that, when people take this formal next step to join the movement, they will be dedicated and they will be committed to the cause, event, or the product even more than they already are. Here's an example of how this could work. Maybe an email is sent to potential fans, talking about the movement, talking about how we're creating a word of mouth movement for people that want to help get the good news out about the product, or to share with what's going on about the company. Um, so the fans will then fill out a request form, and maybe the form gets some basic information from them. Maybe the form talks about, hey, why do you like this product so much? Why do you like this event so much? And how do you think you can help the event? What can you bring to the table for the event? And then fans are then approved to be part of the movement. After they fill out the entry barrier and they've taken that next step to be part of the cause, they are then approved. Now, a question might be asked: why not just open this up to everybody? Why? Let's just send out a blanket email and say, "Hey, um, let's have some conversations about being fans. Are you in?" Why do we need to go through a formalized process? Um, because you won't get the passion if you do that. This is not really about quantity. This is about quality. You won't get the passionate people if you do that. And the key here is finding people who are passionate about the product, the cause, or the event. Okay, you need passionate people. So the barrier of entry really helps you find out who are passionate. Why? Because those who take the extra step to join the movement um, will take more steps in the future. If somebody is willing to sit down and complete a questionnaire, complete a form that says, "Hey, I love the event, I love the product, I love the cause, and I want to help you with it. I want to help get the word out." That demonstrates that this person really is a fan. They're not just telling you that they're a fan; they are a fan, even so much that they would volunteer to help you get the word out about it. And that means that going forward with the movement, you know what? They're gonna do more. They're gonna do more to help get the word out. Those who join this movement, those that take this barrier, see, they're going to be armed with inside knowledge, and they're going to be armed with information that they can help, that they will utilize to spread the word. These people are going to be brought in behind the curtain. They're going to see what's happening and how it's working, and they're going to their passion is just going to be more fueled for the event, the product, or the cause. So, and we don't want to do that for everybody, but we do want to do that for those that really care, those that are really interested. So when they cross that barrier of that formal entry barrier, then we can bring them behind the scenes, we can give them knowledge, and we can equip them. And those who join the movement will create, participate, share, and recruit others. Why? Because you're training these people, you're helping them, and this will be a great thing. So understand that it's really important that a formalized entry process is needed for your fans or your ambassadors that will go out and be equipped to share knowledge about the product. Another thing that's really important too is making sure that your fans have an identity. That when they join the movement, the word of mouth movement, that they are actually identifying with something. Let's talk about their identity, giving fans an identity. Uh, One example in the book, they talk about Fisker scissors. You may not be familiar with Fisker scissors, the name, but you have probably used Fisker scissors. Those are the scissors with the big orange handle. You know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. Brains on Fire several years ago did a word of mouth campaign, or did a word of mouth movement with Fisker scissor brands. And they actually created their fans, their ambassadors, their catalysts, and they gave them the name the Fiskateers. Now, doesn't that sound cool? The Fiskateers. And people could join the Fiskateers. And when they joined the Fiskateers, they had a group name, the Fiskateers, but then they were also given an individual name. If you joined the Fiskateer movement, you were assigned a number. You were Fiskateer number 001 or 007 or 215 or whatever. You were part of a formal group, the Fiskateers, and you had an individual name, Fiskateer number 001. And it was really cool. Like these Fiskateers would go to, and you think, well, how can you be passionate about scissors? You know, of all things, scissors. Well, these were people that were really passionate about crafts, and they used the Fiskars scissors for their crafts, and they would go to crafting shows and quilting shows and all types of things like this, and they would identify themselves at these shows as a Fisketeer, and they would be using their scissors. And so it's kind of weird, it's kind of different, but it had great success with empowering these people to be part of a group. In this case, a Fisketeer, and to have an individual name. You were Fisketeer number 001 out there representing Fisker brand scissors. And when you give somebody an identity, it will build passion for the movement. Why? Because you are further solidifying that they are a fan. You are further solidifying that they are a recognized ambassador of the product, event, or a cause. Giving them an identity will do nothing but fuel their passion. So how would this work practically? How do you identify somebody, get them in the movement? How do you do this? Well, first, maybe you send out an email to potential fans who may want to be part of the movement. You comb a database or whatnot to find people. You put it on the website, whatever. You ask them to complete the registration form. They go through a formalized process. Then you send them a welcome kit. In the case of the Fisketeers, Fisker Scissors sent them a welcome kit that actually had a welcome letter in it from Fiskars, from the president of Fiskars. It had specialized swag in it. But this swag was not just for everybody. This was only for the Fisketeers. And for the Fisketeers, they actually got a custom pair of Fisker scissors that was just for Fisketeers, and it actually had their identification number on it, Fisketeer number 001. So they got this welcome kit with a letter, swag, some sneak peek info, new products that was coming, and more reasons to be passionate and excited. But here was the big deal. They got an invitation for a special meeting at HQ. How this works practically is that you put people through a formalized process. They complete the formalized process. You send them a welcome kit with the welcome letter, specialized swag, sneak peek info, and then here's the big one. You invite them to the face-to-face meeting. They really recommend at the headquarters because, again, it builds that sense of movement. It builds that sense of passion within them. Now, this is the really, really important part. When they come to the meeting, here's how the meeting kind of works. Here's what they do at the meeting. The company lets them know what they can bring to the table. They gather them together with other like-minded, passionate people, and they'll say, here's what you can bring to the table. Here's what you as a Fisketeer, here's what you as a fan, here's what you as an ambassador, here's what you as a catalyst can help with the product, event, or cause that you are already passionate about. You tell them the history of the company, the product, or event. You tell them what went into this, the past, what it's looking like now, the present, maybe what the future could look like. And you brainstorm ideas. You get them together, you get out a whiteboard, you get out paper, and you start writing and brainstorming ideas with your fans, your ambassadors, your catalyst, and you brainstorm ideas on how to get the word out. Now remember, if we are believers in Christ and we are promoting something through the Kentucky Baptist Convention, there's a reason to get the word out, and the passion is already there. But your fans may have some really creative ideas that you haven't thought about already that they can help get the word out. Remember, they're the ones that are passionate about it. And you empower people in this meeting to be ambassadors. You tell them that they are an ambassador of the product, event, or a cause. And maybe you, quote unquote, knight them to be an ambassador. You christen them to go out and to identify themselves as an ambassador, as a catalyst, as a fan, as a Fisketeer with those orange scissors. You empower them to go out and say, you can say that you are an ambassador of this product, company, or an event. At this point, you may say, well, what in the world is in it for the fans? This seems like we're just trying to get people together and get free marketing out of them. What in the world is in it for them? Why should they care about going out and telling everybody about our product for free? I mean, why would they want to volunteer their time to go and do this? The book Brains on Fire does a really good job of explaining why people will do this. And if you think about it, on the church level, people do this all the time. On the church level, people get involved in building campaigns, people get involved in mission projects. Why? Here's the key word: they are passionate about it. There's a reason for it. Word of mouth movements are about passion. So, what is in it for the fans, the ambassadors, or the catalyst that you're going to recruit to the movement, the fisketeer, so to speak? Understand that people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want to see something that will outlive them. They want to see something that makes a difference. So understand that when we bring people to the table, that they need to know that they can be part of something that's bigger than themselves, and they want that. People also want to be heard. They need to be heard. If they are a fan of the product, the cause, or the event, they need to be heard. They love it. They're your promoter. And companies need to listen to them. Companies need to listen to what the fans, the ambassadors, or the catalysts are saying. So the fan wants to be part of something bigger than themselves, and they want to be heard. So they're getting an opportunity to be heard. And here's the cool thing. These people will be recognized at events and in front of others. Everybody kind of likes a little bit of recognition. Now, let's just be honest. And folks that are loyal ambassadors that contribute, people that are great supporters of a product, cause, or event, man, it's good to recognize them. It's good to have them stand up on stage and say, hey, you know what? There was a lot that went into this, but these are folks that really made a difference, that really contributed. So there's that little bit of recognition. And don't never forget, they contribute to the movement. So what's in it for the fans? They get to see what they're passionate about come to life even more. And they can say that they had a part in that. They had their fingers in that. They weren't just somebody out there just putting flyers on a car. They were out there actually caring about something that was bigger than themselves, and that they were able to give input into and to be part of something. So that's pretty exciting when you think about that. Getting people passionate about a cause or event, letting them speak into it, and then sending them out there to do it. Now, you may at this point be saying, well, why a movement, Kenny? Why do we need a movement? Why can't we just stick with the same old, same old? Why can't we just send emails and put it on social media and just rely on that? Well, you need to keep social media. You need to keep the mailers. You need to keep the postcards. You need to keep the brochures. You need that, but you also need a movement as well. So why? Why a movement? Movements move an organization toward their set goals. If you have a goal in an organization, how are you going to get there? You could tell people to meet the goal, but when the people are passionate and when they're on fire and when you have something that is moving people to that goal, oh man, you're going to have a much better success rate of meeting that goal if people are actually passionate and excited for that goal. Creating a word of mouth movement can really help a company or an organization meet their set goals. Why? Because you're tapping into your potential fan base that are passionate, that can help move the organization to their goals. And never forget, movements make a difference. I don't know how much of a difference scissors make, but those Fisketeers went out to craft shows, and they felt like they were part of something. They were sharing their passion for crafts with other people, and that might change their life. So now think about a Christian movement. Think about something that makes a difference. The cooperative program. Think about shepherding the shepherd. Things that make a difference. Movements can make a difference. So if you could tap into a movement base, I'm telling you, lives could be changed. Advertisements and social media bring awareness, but movements connect people to a purpose. Now, understand, the book is not against traditional marketing. The people that wrote it are actually part of a marketing company. So this is not a slam towards marketing under any means, but it's coming alongside marketing, making sure that marketing has its place, which is awareness. But the movement goes the next step of connecting people to the purpose, of getting them passionate where they're pouring into their social network or to their actual real social networks, not just on Facebook, but real flesh and blood people. And they're connecting them to a purpose. And movements spread out the ownership. They're excited. You can increase your volunteer base. They can help you with all types of things, not only get the word out, but help with setup, help you with ideas. The ownership is spread out. So let's get practical. How does this work for our organization, for the Kentucky Baptist Convention, created by churches for churches to reach Kentucky and the world for Christ? So how do we get very practical about creating word-of-mouth movements within the Kentucky Baptist Convention? How could that possibly work? As I read the book, I was obviously reading it through the lens of the current ministry that I'm in as an evangelism strategist on the evangelism team. I read this entire book thinking about how does this work, particularly for a nonprofit denomination? How does this work for the evangelism team? So I began to kind of write in my notebook different ideas of how this could translate over into what we do as ministers of the gospel. How does this work out? So let me just share with you what I thought about and how a word of mouth movement could work for KBC. Sustainable word of mouth movements could work for us in various ways. For example, through the cooperative program. Can you imagine creating cooperative program ambassadors, people that were passionate and excited and were trained to go out there and spread the word about the cooperative program? Could you imagine what that could do for cooperative program education and knowledge? What about church planting? People that are passionate about church planting, sharing, how do you get more churches planted? You keep more people on fire for church planting. What about church revitalization? What about, finding people that are so passionate about revitalization that they actually go down the street to a church that's struggling and dying and say, you know what, there's hope for you, and I know how to connect you to the Kentucky Baptist Convention, to one of our regional consultants to help with revitalization. Wouldn't that be awesome? Instead of all of our regional consultants banging on every single door, which they need to do probably, just like the evangelism team needs to go out and bang on doors of churches that haven't baptized anybody. But what if people were so excited, pastors were so excited that they sought out other pastors to say, hey, you know what? There's help for you, and let me show you how to get that help. What about Kentucky Today? People that love Kentucky Today, that are faithful, loyal subscribers, and even contributors to Kentucky Today, if they reached out to people and said, hey, can you sign up? Can you be part of this? Let me show you how to sign up for it. And then obviously our KBC events. Think about annual meeting. Think about shepherding the shepherd. Think about reach. That's where I'm thinking a lot about these days. Think about how ambassadors or catalysts or fans that are formally trained, they cross the barrier of entry, they have ownership into the movement. Think about how that could really make a difference. So I thought, hey, what would that look like for a KBC event? Well, let's just imagine. Let's brainstorm a little bit. Maybe we would identify loyal attendees who's been coming to these events regularly over the last few years. Who's been coming? Who are they? Let's identify them. All right, we have identified them. Now let's send an email out asking them to become a fan, an ambassador, or a catalyst. I particularly like the term catalyst. I like that word for the event. We send them an email, say, hey, are you interested in becoming an ambassador or a catalyst for fill in the blank, for annual meeting, for shepherding the shepherd, for equip, for reach, for multiply Kentucky, for disaster relief training, for etc. You've identified your loyal fans. You send them an email asking if they want to, and if they would then complete the registration, send a registration form. Why do they want to be an ambassador? We would say, why do you want to be an ambassador for DR or Equip or Shepherding the Shepherd? Why do you want to do this? What ideas do you have? Or whatever that form looks like. Then you send them a welcome kit in the mail with personalized swag and an ID name. reach catalyst number 001 or um, DR catalyst 004. I don't know. But you send them a welcome kit with some personalized swag in it that gives them the identification that they are part of the movement, that they have been formally identified as part of the movement. And then you bring them all together for a face-to-face meeting. Um, I think about like for our events, wouldn't it be cool if you brought them to the very first place in Kentucky, the church that the very first evangelism conference was held at? Wouldn't that be cool if you got all of your fans in the same room that the very first evangelism conference in the state of Kentucky was held, and you stood up there and you said, "Hey, we are in this is the church that hosted the very first KBC Evangelism Conference, which is now Reach Evangelism and Missions Conference, and let's vision cast, let's brainstorm, let's pray, let's pray, let's ask God to bless this. You're the fans, you're the ambassador, you're the catalyst. Let's pray, and let's share our experiences together. Let's brainstorm." And then you equip them with the info they'll need throughout the year. Maybe you give them some flyers, maybe you give them some brochures, but more than that, you give them knowledge. You give them knowledge that they need, when the event's going to be, when registration is going to be, how to get their church involved, etc. You encourage them to speak to their lay people, speak at associational board meetings, and speak to other pastors. Encourage them to get in front of their executive board for the association to talk to them about the upcoming event. Talk to their lay people. Encourage them to get their lay people involved. Encourage them to get their other pastor friends involved. Word of mouth. And then you train them to be trainers. You give them the knowledge of how to actually train people about the event, how to communicate what the event is, when it's going to be. You've just given them the knowledge and you've shown them how to do it. And then maybe you give them behind-the-scenes treatment at the event. For example, they love it. They've done some work for it. You know what? They might actually want to be there when they set up. They might want to be a workforce. They might want to help you with registration. They might want to help you unload stuff and pack stuff. Listen, people will do this if they're passionate about it. For several years, I had a faithful group of people when we planted our church that woke up incredibly early on Sunday morning. They went and got a truck with a big trailer full of gear, and they set up, they tore that trailer apart and set up for church every single Sunday for 5 years. And they loaded everything back in the trailer after the service. They were dedicated and they were loyal, and they wanted to do that. Why? Because they were passionate about what was happening. And you know what? As we try to find more help, hey, listen, why not look at our ambassadors and our fans? Why not look at those that care about the movement to help us with it? And then you recognize them on stage. That's the fun part, right? You have them stand up and you say, we just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of our catalysts that helped spread the word this year, that helped tell everybody about the movement. We just want to say thank you. And here they are. This is ambassadors that are here, and we couldn't have done this without them. So we praise the Lord for them. And maybe that's how that could work for an event. But you could do this with CP. You could do this with DR. You could do this with Multiply. I mean, Equip. You name it. It could happen. Again, I want to give credit where credit's due. All of this information was adapted from the book Brains on Fire, Igniting Powerful, Sustainable Word-of-Mouth Movements. There's the site there. So I hope this was encouraging. Just to kind of give you a little bit of background on this book and how a word-of-mouth movement could work. I'd encourage you to read the book more than anything else, because it will flesh out these ideas even more. So God bless you. Thank you for your time.